It was a slow evening at a small-town diner tucked away on the outskirts of the city. Lucy, a 23-year-old waitress, wiped down tables while glancing at the clock. Her shift had been long, and her tired feet begged for rest, but she forced a smile as another customer entered. Across the room, a young family sat at a booth, two parents and their little boy, who couldn't have been more than 5. The boy giggled as he played with a napkin, completely unaware of the stress etched on his parents' faces. Lucy noticed the mother whisper something to the father, who nodded solemnly, pulling out his wallet and hesitating. Lucy approached their table with her usual warmth. "How's everything going? Can I get you anything else?" she asked. The father cleared his throat, trying to hide his unease. "Just the check, please," he replied, his voice low. Lucy nodded and returned moments later with the bill. She stepped away, but couldn't help but notice the couple's hushed conversation. The father handed the waiter's receipt back, his face pale. "Excuse me," he called out hesitantly, gesturing Lucy over. She approached, her heart sinking as she saw the look of embarrassment on his face. "Is there a problem?" The man glanced at his wife before speaking. I think our card got declined. It's been a tough month for us." Lucy's heart ached for them. She'd been there before, counting every penny, wondering how to make ends meet. Without hesitation, she said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." The couple stared at her in disbelief. No, we can't let you do that," the mother protested. Lucy smiled reassuringly. "It's really okay. I've been in your shoes before. Pay it forward someday if you can." The father's eyes glistened with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. Lucy waved it off as if it was no big deal, though she knew it would mean dipping into her own tight budget. She covered their meal out of her tips, watching as the family left with smiles and a small spark of hope. What Lucy didn't know was that someone else in the diner had been watching the entire exchange, a man sitting in the corner booth, scribbling into a notepad. His suit was simple yet elegant, his expression thoughtful as he observed Lucy's act of kindness. As the night wore on, Lucy forgot about the family and the stranger. She finished her shift, collected her tips, and headed home to her modest apartment, unaware that her life was about to take a remarkable turn. The following morning, Lucy arrived at the diner for another long shift. The usual hum of clinking dishes and soft conversations filled the air, but something felt different. Her co-workers whispered among themselves, stealing glances toward the corner booth. "What's going on?" Lucy asked Rachel, a fellow waitress. Rachel leaned in, her eyes wide with excitement. "There's a guy in the corner asking for you. He looks important." Lucy furrowed her brow, confused. "Important? Like how?" Rachel shrugged. "He's in a suit, and he's been sitting there for over an hour. Looks like he's waiting for something, or someone." Curiosity piqued, Lucy walked over to the corner booth. Sitting there was the same man from the previous night, the one who had been quietly observing her. He smiled warmly as she approached. "Hi," Lucy said hesitantly. "Can I get you anything?" The man stood and extended his hand. "Lucy, right?" "My name is Edward Grant." Lucy shook his hand, still unsure of what was happening. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Grant. How do you know my name?" Edward chuckled. "I was here last night. I saw what you did for that family." Lucy's cheeks flushed. "Oh, that was nothing. They just needed a little help." Edward's expression grew serious. "It wasn't nothing. You didn't hesitate to show kindness, even when it cost you. That says a lot about your character." Lucy shifted uncomfortably. "I mean, it's just what anyone would do, right?" "Not everyone," Edward said firmly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek black business card. "I didn't want to make a scene last night, but I felt compelled to come back and talk to you." Lucy took the card, glancing at it. Her eyes widened as she read the words. Edward Grant, CEO, Grant Enterprises. She blinked in surprise, her mouth slightly open. "Wait, you're a CEO? Of what?" Edward smiled. We manage several businesses, including restaurants, hotels, and a few charities. I couldn't stop thinking about how you treated that family last night. People like you are rare, and I'd like to offer you an opportunity. Lucy stared at him, completely at a loss for words. An opportunity? What kind of opportunity? Edward leaned forward, his voice low but earnest. I'm opening a new restaurant chain, one that focuses on community and giving back. I need someone with your compassion and work ethic to help lead it. Think of it as a fresh start, with a lot more potential than waiting tables here. Lucy blinked, trying to process his words. You're offering me a job? Not just a job, Edward replied. A chance to change your life, and maybe even change others' lives in the process. Lucy felt her heart race. She glanced around the diner, at the worn tables and the tired faces of her co-workers. Could this really be happening? Why me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Edward smiled. Because you've already proven that you care, and that's something money can't buy. Lucy clutched the business card, her hands trembling as Edward's words sank in. It felt too surreal, like a scene from a movie. She looked at him, searching his face for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was genuine belief in her. I don't know what to say, Lucy stammered. Edward's smile remained steady. Take your time. I understand it's a big decision, but I see potential in you, Lucy, potential that deserves to be nurtured. She hesitated. I don't have experience running a restaurant, let alone managing one. I just serve tables and try to get by. Edward shook his head. You underestimate yourself. Leadership isn't about experience, it's about heart and vision. You proved last night that you have both. Everything else can be learned. Lucy glanced around the diner. The place that had been her second home for years suddenly felt smaller, like it couldn't hold her dreams anymore. But doubt still lingered. What if I fail? She whispered, more to herself than to Edward. Edward leaned forward, his tone reassuring. Failure is part of the journey, Lucy, but I can promise you this, you won't be doing it alone. I'll guide you every step of the way. All I ask is that you believe in yourself as much as I do. For a moment, Lucy imagined what her life could look like if she took the leap. A stable income, the chance to make a difference, and the ability to leave behind the struggles she had faced for so long. But the idea of stepping into the unknown terrified her. Edward seemed to sense her hesitation. You don't have to decide right now. Here's my personal number, he said, pulling out a pen and jotting it down on the back of the card. Call me when you're ready, but I'll warn you, opportunities like this don't come around often. Lucy nodded, her heart pounding as she slipped the card into her pocket. Thank you, Mr. Grant. I'll think about it. Call me Edward, he said with a smile. And I hope to hear from you soon. As Edward left the diner, Lucy stood frozen, torn between excitement and fear. She couldn't shake the feeling that this moment could change everything. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the doubts crept back in. Was she really capable of taking on such a big role? What if she failed and ended up worse off than before? But then she remembered the family from the previous night, the look of relief on the father's face, the shy smile from the little boy. Maybe, just maybe, she could do more for people like them if she took this chance. With a deep breath, Lucy reached for her phone and dialed the number on the card. Lucy clutched her phone tightly as the line rang. Her heart raced, each second stretching into eternity. Just as she considered hanging up, a familiar voice answered. Edward Grant speaking. Hi, it's Lucy, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy! Edward's tone lit up with warmth. I hoped I'd hear from you. Have you made a decision? She took a deep breath, willing herself to be brave. I have. I want to do it. I want to take the chance. There was a brief pause, and then Edward responded with a steady confidence that reassured her. That's the best news I've heard all week. You won't regret this, Lucy. Let's get started right away. Over the next few weeks, Lucy's life transformed. Edward's team helped her learn everything she needed to know about managing a restaurant: inventory, finances, leadership, and more. Each day brought new challenges, but Lucy attacked them with a determination she hadn't known she possessed. The diner itself underwent a makeover. With Edward's resources, they repainted the walls, upgraded the furniture, and revamped the menu. But Lucy insisted on keeping the heart of the place intact. "This diner is about people," she said firmly during one of their meetings. "We can't lose that." Edward nodded, impressed. "And that's why you're the perfect person for this role." Word spread quickly in the neighborhood about the changes, and soon the diner was busier than ever. But Lucy didn't just focus on the business side. She made it a point to hire people who needed a second chance: single parents, veterans, and even a few teenagers from rough backgrounds. One day, as Lucy was serving coffee to a table, she noticed a familiar face walk in: the father and his little boy from that fateful night. She froze for a moment, overwhelmed by emotion, before hurrying over to greet them. "Welcome back," she said with a smile. The father looked around, visibly surprised. "Wow, this place looks amazing. Is it under new management?" Lucy grinned. "You could say that." As they spoke, Edward walked in and watched from a distance, pride evident in his eyes. He didn't approach, choosing instead to let Lucy shine. Later that evening, as Lucy closed up the diner, she found Edward waiting by the door. "You've done an incredible job, Lucy," he said. "Thank you," she replied, her voice thick with gratitude. "But I couldn't have done it without you." Edward shook his head. "I just gave you the opportunity. You did the rest." Lucy smiled, realizing that for the first time in her life, she felt proud of herself. Months passed, and the diner thrived under Lucy's leadership. It wasn't just a place to eat anymore, it was a beacon of hope for the community. The stories of Lucy's kindness and Edward's unexpected mentorship became local legends. One evening, Lucy was cleaning up after another busy day when a journalist walked in. "Hi, I'm Emma Collins," she said, holding up her press badge. "I've heard some incredible things about this place and your story. I'd love to do a feature on it." Lucy hesitated. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight, but Emma's genuine curiosity and warmth convinced her. The article was published a week later, titled "From Waitress to Community Leader: How One Woman Transformed a Diner and a Neighborhood." It went viral, touching the hearts of millions. People from across the country came to visit the diner, inspired by Lucy's journey. One day, as Lucy was supervising the kitchen, Edward arrived unannounced. He was holding a framed copy of the article. "This is for you," he said, handing it to her. Lucy's eyes welled up as she read the headline again. "I still can't believe any of this is real," she admitted. Edward smiled. "It's very real, Lucy, and it's just the beginning." Soon, Lucy started organizing community events at the diner: free meals for the homeless, job fairs, and even workshops to help struggling families manage finances. Her efforts created a ripple effect, inspiring others to pay it forward in their own ways. One afternoon, the father and son who had started it all came back. This time, the father wasn't alone. He was accompanied by his wife and daughter. "We wanted to thank you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "What you did for us that night, it changed our lives. My wife got a job, and we've been able to get back on our feet. I can't tell you how much that meant to us." Lucy hugged them, tears streaming down her face. "You're the reason I believed I could do this. Thank you for trusting me that night." As they left, Edward approached Lucy. "You've done something incredible here," he said. Lucy looked around the bustling diner, her heart swelling with pride. "It's not just me, it's everyone who walked through these doors and believed in something better." Edward chuckled. "You're being modest, but that's what makes you a great leader. I think we need more places like this, don't you?" Lucy's eyes widened. "Are you saying—" Edward grinned. "I'm saying this could be the first of many. What do you think about helping me open more community-focused diners across the country? Lucy couldn't contain her excitement. I'd love that. As they shook hands, Lucy realized how far she had come, from a struggling waitress to a leader making a real difference. And she knew this was just the start of something much bigger. The ripple effect of kindness, fueled by a single act of generosity, was now changing lives far beyond the little diner where it all began. Within a year, the vision Edward and Lucy shared became a reality. They launched the first chain of community-focused diners, aptly named the Second Chance Cafes. Each location hired people who needed a fresh start: formerly incarcerated individuals, struggling single parents, and veterans returning to civilian life. The story of these cafes quickly gained national attention. News outlets featured them as a symbol of hope in a divided world, and donations poured in from philanthropists who wanted to support the initiative. Lucy, who had once doubted her ability to lead, found herself traveling across the country to share her story at conferences and community events. One evening, Lucy returned to the original diner, her favorite place to reflect. She sat at the counter, sipping coffee, when a young girl approached her. "Are you Lucy?" the girl asked shyly. "That's me," Lucy replied with a warm smile. The girl hesitated before handing her a piece of paper. It was a crayon drawing of a diner, with a caption that read, "Thank you for giving my daddy a job." Lucy felt her throat tighten as she looked at the little girl. "This is beautiful. What's your name?" "Emily," the girl said. "My dad works here now. He says you're his hero." Lucy knelt down to hug Emily. "Your dad is the real hero," she said softly. As the girl ran back to her father, Lucy realized how much one small act of kindness could ripple through countless lives. Edward joined her at the counter a few minutes later, a knowing smile on his face. "You okay?" he asked. Lucy nodded, wiping her eyes. "It's just overwhelming sometimes, seeing how much this has grown." Edward placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's what happens when you lead with your heart, Lucy. You've shown people what's possible when we take care of one another." As the sun set behind the diner, Lucy gazed out at the lively crowd filling the booths and tables. Families laughed, friends reunited, and strangers connected over shared meals. "This is more than I ever dreamed," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Edward smiled. "It's only the beginning." Lucy knew he was right. The Second Chance cafes weren't just about food or jobs. They were about hope, resilience, and the power of community. And as long as there were people in need of a second chance, she would be there, ready to help. The story of Lucy and Edward became a lasting inspiration, proving that even the smallest gestures of kindness could transform lives and create a legacy that would endure for generations.